The 6 for 60 pyramid is an illustration of all the principles that have been successful in my life and my patient's life in bringing health. And it's putting them all together in order to produce health. You notice at the top of the pyramid is actually health. Pyramids are awesome illustrations because a pyramid does not stand without a strong foundation. And everything on the top builds on it, but the strong foundation is what builds it. So the foundation, the strong foundation of 6 for 60 is the reason why it's successful and why people have such great results. An example of a pyramid with a strong foundation are the pyramids in Egypt. They've stood for millennia and in a pretty harsh environment. And they wouldn't have if they hadn't had that strong foundation. So the foundation of the 6 for 60 pyramid, as you can see, is a strong purpose. In order to do anything, you have to have a reason for doing it. It's kind of a law of nature. But the other reason a strong purpose is important is because it's a compass that puts you back on track when you get off track and helps you to find your way. Next up from that is having a balanced nervous system. Now, the reason having a balanced nervous system is so important is because the nervous system controls and coordinates every function that happens in your body. You literally live your life through your nervous system. So it's very important to have a balanced and properly functioning nervous system. And you can do that if you're curious, how do I affect that? It talks about that a little bit in the handout, but getting a chiropractic exam is a good idea. I think Becky will be sending you, my wife Becky, Dr. Becky will be sending you some information on how you can do that at our clinic at some point in the future. Next up from that, we have balanced hormones. Notice we're not talking about diet, we're talking about balancing our hormones, because the problem isn't eating too much food. The problem is the food that we're eating is throwing our hormones way out of balance with anything that's conducive with the health of our genetics. So we want to balance those hormones so they're conducive with our genetics and so that it produces health very quickly. Okay, and we talked about that. That's the 6 for 60 diet program. Those are the foods to include. Next up from that is exercise. Every cell in our body literally needs exercise. And we talked about the 6 for 60 exercise. The most important thing is to get out and move. Then sprinting and weightlifting occasionally are also important too. Up from that we have sufficiency and deficiency. So that would be supplementation. Unfortunately, the foods that we eat are not as nutritious as the foods that our hunter-gatherer ancestors ate. So we have to supplement some of those nutrients. And we also have to help our body as we're losing weight and releasing toxins in the bloodstream to get rid of them. So the supplements I recommend help to do that. And look for handouts and emails in the future about supplements. And then ultimately at the top we have health. So in my paradigm, health is the natural effect of applying these principles. And once you get the health that's at the top there, you have what I call, or I term, thriving health or wellness. So these principles are what I have used to turn myself from an overweight, sickly person into somebody who's becoming more fit. I still am moving towards my goals. And it's been years since I've actually been sick. And before that it was, every week or month or whatever I was coming down with something. So it's very important to follow these principles to get to the top, in my opinion. Now, a lot of people will tell you that health is just the absence of disease or the absence of sickness or a diagnosed condition. And that doesn't fit in this paradigm. And here, health is something that is a natural result of applying healing principles. It's not the absence of a disease. Okay, the diseases will be gone because they can't exist in a healthy person. But it's not merely the absence of that. So if somebody is trying to just treat a disease or just treat a diagnosed condition and calling that health, they're putting their input into the top of that pyramid, and their pyramid is upside down. Okay, so if the pyramids in Egypt had been built on the point as opposed to on that good foundation, they wouldn't have stood nearly as long as they do. So hopefully this helps you to understand the handout a little bit. Please get a chance to read it. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to see what I can do to answer them. Thanks very much. Enjoy.